live, brother. How you doing, man?
Good, fellas. How are y'all?
Hey, wonderful. Let me turn that off real quick. We got some new platforms we're trying out. We actually started the Twitch page yesterday, and I figured, so I opened it up here and we started talking. So I went ahead and turned it off. I didn't know how that thing works, but my son, he's a little younger than us. He's like, hey, you gotta start a Twitch. And then I went on there and I said, there's not a lot of football content on there, college football content. I think it's more for gamers, but we'll see how it goes. And if it doesn't work well, if it doesn't do anything, we'll disconnect that and kind of move on. But obviously we got Horns 247 recruiting editor Mike Roach on here. Before we get into the actual football questions, I think Jeremy wants to start off with talking about, you're an author, Mike. You're an author. You got a best-selling book out there now.
We hope bestseller. That's what we hope. I don't think it's officially. It is in pre-order status, so it can certainly help me get there. And if you would like to help me get there, my 20th high school reunion is next year, and I would like to return a best-selling author. So please subscribe, or please pre-order.
And I did. So my book is coming on the 22nd of October. I ordered it 2 days ago, and it's titled The Road to Texas, Incredible Twists and Improbable Turns Along the Longhorns Recruiting Trail. And I'm not going to ask you for the best story out of the book because we need to save that for folks to buy it. But can you give us a little snippet of what they can get when they open up this 256-page book?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, we sat down with a lot of former Texas players and talked about basically their recruit, how things played out, and told some great stories. Guys we talked to include Blake Brockermeyer, B.J. Johnson, Quan Cosby, Derek Johnson, Fozzie Whitaker, Rod Wright, Roy Miller, Michael Huff, Rod Baber. So a lot of big names in the Texas football world that were part of it. And a lot of fun was had kind of just talking about, how recruiting has changed since those guys were going through it, and how the program has changed and where the program was at that time. And, those types of things. So I think it'll be a fun read for people. We've got some, I think a lot of those you would imagine, those are guys that just grew up wanting to go to Texas and then they got the opportunity and went to Texas, but it's not really the case. There were Blake Brockermeyer, who grew up, the son of a Longhorn, wanted to go anywhere but Texas, wanted to go to Washington or Florida State, and then, decided late to stay home and stay in the state of Texas. And, Quan Cosby had 2 recruitments that Texas had to land him in, and they got him in both of them after he played minor league baseball. And so we just talk about a lot of those fun stories and, kind of reminisce with some of the guys.
That's awesome.
Can I jump in there with a follow-up, Mike? So you're talking about recruiting season. And correct me if I'm wrong, but now recruiting season is the summer before your senior year. Like the All-Star game, hat displays, have those gone away? Because it seems like most of these high caliber, recruits are looking to get it done in the summer and get it out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting earlier and earlier. It's kind of been a trend year over year with them going earlier in the cycle, allowing spring visits kind of open the door on that. There are guys who are able to get their official visits all out of the way before their senior season starts. And a lot of those guys want that distraction off of their mind. So, we will still have, a couple guys at the All-Star games with the hats. But for the most part, I mean, the big part of that, like we always joke, like when we're down at the All-American Bowl every January, it's kind of lost its heat. Every year it was a hotbed of recruiting information before there was an early signing period, because there was, you would have all the top prospects there. You would get a lot of intel from it. And then going into the February signing period, well, now most of those guys are signed by the time they get there. And so it's, not quite as much heat going on, but, still a lot of fun to cover.
Talking about kind of another follow-up question. We have a whole bunch of other questions, but these are kind of leading to other follow-up questions. Follow-up question to that: when you're talking about recruiting intel, does most of your recruiting intel come from sources within the program, or is it relationships you've built with other recruits that may be committed to a school or maybe thinking about committing to that same school?
I mean, a lot of the recruiting intel, if you want to tell an accurate story, you can't have it coming from one side or the other. You can't get all of your information from the recruit, and you can't get all of the information from the program. You have to be able to cover it from as many sides as possible, whether that be talking to recruits, parents, high school coaches, trainers, and then, sources on the college side that are and not just say it's a Texas recruitment, not just Texas sources. I'm talking to Baylor sources and A&M sources, guys at other schools, just to see, hey, what is this kid telling you, or what is your perception of where things stand? Our goal is always to get as complete of a picture as possible, because I think that's how you tell the best story.
Perfect.
That is great. So I'm going to turn specifically to Texas. Something that I've noticed, and I may be off, but it seems like Texas is offering scholarships to just about every state. Is this a new philosophy for Coach Sark and his staff, or have they always done that? We're just seeing them land the kids out of Hawaii, landing the kids out of New Jersey, and in a play for a lot of other outstaters, to include Louisiana, Florida, Alabama, and those places.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Brown, I think probably his biggest regret, if he could go back and do it again, was not capitalizing on the success of their national championship and going with a truly national recruiting brand. I do think he liked having a roster mostly made up of Texans, and to be able to say, well, I won this for the Texas High School Coaches Association, which is great. But the fact is, I mean, to get the best of the best, you're going to have to go outside of the state borders every once in a while. And, Charlie Strong did it a fair amount, probably not more not by his choice than by his choice. Tom Herman did it a fair amount, but nobody has landed them consistently like Steve Sarkisian has so far in those 2 years. And going out of state and landing, big priority guys, going head to head with power programs to get them.
Just want to put some comments up here while we got them rolling in here. Next question. So the class currently sits at 18 recruits. And I think on 247, before you went on vacation, you said we would have between 15 and 18 commitments by the end of June, I think is what it was, or July. I can't remember which one but you had kind of nailed it down that we're going to have this many commitments by this time. Where do we see the class at? It's somewhere between 26, 27, 8? Is that kind of where we see the finish of this class?
It's tough because with all the new changes going on and them removing class limits, I mean, they could technically go higher than that. I think it's just going to be about, do they have enough targets to warrant going higher than that? Last year, I think they did. They had enough guys on the offensive line to oversign an offensive line class and go big on the numbers. And this year, I think they've got some positions they could do that at, but it seems like a more measured approach as they kind of try to shape this roster into what Steve Sarkisian wants it to be. I think probably, somewhere between 26 and 28 could be a fair assessment of class size as I see it right now.
So that means you got 8 takes on the board by my calculation. Do you see most of those being invested on the front 7 at this point, Mike? I think maybe one receiver, one running back, maybe one offensive lineman, the rest going to the front 7. Well, basically defense, because you still got to get some defensive backs in this class too.
Yeah, a couple corners are needed. And like you said, you got to keep chasing Cedric Baxter. I think things are starting to trend positively with Deuce Robinson, the number 1 tight end in the country, enough to where you definitely have to keep a spot open for him. But yeah, front 7 is kind of where it's at, adding another interior defensive lineman, adding a couple of guys who can get after the quarterback on the edge, and then, adding a corner. I think those are the big priorities right now.
So I'm going to ask you a question that may be some insider information, because I know the people that are watching this channel, they follow recruiting, because most of our conversation usually is about recruiting, and we get a lot of stuff really from Horns 247. There's a couple of guys out there in Malik Muhammad, 𝗟𝗜𝗘 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗘, Hill, Hicks, the list goes on and on. It's like you're going for the big whales now after these last 18 you've gotten. Malik Muhammad is probably one of my favorite recruits. Where do we kind of stand in his recruitment right now as we see it?
I mean, I think Texas has made a really impressive surge with Malik Muhammad from South Oak Cliff. I'm very close with that staff. I've spent a lot of time with those kids. I know them very well. I've known Malik since he was a freshman. That I've kind of been in the know on that recruitment for a while. And there was a point in the spring where I just said, hey, we're going to have to write Malik off. I don't think it's going to get done. I don't think he's barely considering Texas at this point. And, took a visit. They got him on campus in the spring for an unofficial, got him right back for an official after that. And that's kind of changed things a lot to where, he feels more invested with the coaching staff than he did in the past. He feels more direction from the program. And, there's a lot of links in Texas' favor with Malik Muhammad, with, whether it be Chris Gilbert being on staff, who went to SOC and grew up with Malik's dad, went to school with him, or 𝗟𝗜𝗞𝗘 Cook, who's like a longtime best friend of Malik Muhammad. Billy Walton's his cousin. So, I mean, there's a lot of positive links for Texas within this recruitment. It's just about kind of finishing it off. And, I think it was kind of presumed that Texas A&M would be the favorite for Malik. And I think that's where things were heading back in, April or May. It's changed a lot now. I would actually probably put it between Texas and Alabama at this point for his services.
Hey, Mike, and a follow on. I mean, in the few conversations that we've had, we always said that it was important for Texas to get back into DeSoto, Duncanville, South Oak Cliff, Cedar Hill, Lancaster area, with 𝗟𝗜𝗞𝗘 and Trey coming, being commitments for this class, Billy Walton as well, and then an outside chance for Malik Muhammad. It seems like Sark's staff has really embedded themselves in that area, along with the northern suburbs. Like, has this staff taken over Dallas, and do they have the potential to also take over Houston the way we think they have to make this football team?
Well, they've done a much stronger job in Dallas than I think Tom Herman's staff did, and I think that's been one of the important things I've been screaming. And maybe it's just because I'm a Dallas guy, but I've been screaming for years, like, they've got to do a better job in Dallas, especially, anything south of 35 in Dallas. They really got to do a good job on, or I'm sorry, I guess south of 30, I would say, if we're being geographical here. Anything that way, they've really got to do a good job, especially that I-20 corridor. It's so important, when you talk about those schools. And it's funny, we were discussing something on the site today, and somebody lumped, SOC into the I-20 corridor. And I think technically they probably get mentioned in that. But if you look at where SOC lies geographically, it's off 35 in between 30 and 20. So that's just some semantics from me if we're not including them. But yeah, I think they've done a really good job. A lot of that's been Chris Gilbert. A lot of that's been Jeff Banks, who's just recruited the area for so long and has so many ties. And then, Brennan Marion's been kind of a welcome addition to recruiting this area. And they've got a more, what I would call, a widespread approach, where I feel like previous staffs were really focused on either Dallas or Houston. And they haven't shown they've got enough wins in Houston that it's not a concern for me how they recruit it. They haven't shown that dominant ability in Houston yet, but they really haven't had much of an opportunity based on what Houston's given them. So I think they're much more widespread and can kind of be a threat anywhere.
Talking about out-of-state guys, kind of switch it up here and go back, talking specific to player. Was the switch from Owens to Baxter purely on a talent preference, or a mix between not wanting to be involved in a drawn-out back and forth recruitment?
I mean, I don't know that there was a big switch made. Those are two guys they evaluate very highly and rank very highly on their board. And it was a case of, we'll recruit both and we'll see who we get. It wasn't we're going to stop talking to Ruben Owens because we're recruiting Cedric Baxter. That never happened. I do know that the Texas staff views Cedric Baxter extremely, in a glowing way. And how could you not? I watched a couple full games of his the other day, and he's really fun. He's a big back that moves like he does. It's not super common. So I think just from a talent standpoint, they really like Cedric Baxter. I think those guys were 1-2 on their board. And I don't think they pulled out of the Ruben Owens recruitment by any means. I just think that, they've kind of felt like they had a better things were going in a better way with Baxter. And so that's kind of what they've turned a little more focus to.
I got a quick question, Mike, because we kind of covered the corner to corner in the United States for this, coaching staff recruiting, but the body types. So Kyle Flood and his body types, regardless of stars, he wants a certain body. Talking about receivers, they want guys who can get open, like 𝗟𝗜𝗘 and the other receivers they recruited in this class with elite speed, and their track guys. Have you seen a concerted effort out of this staff to go for not the top ranked guys according to 247 Rivals or On3, but a specific body type or a specific skill set to coach to their scheme?
Yeah, I think every college in the country does that to an extent. They've all got a great idea. In fact, when I meet new coaches and they say, hey, if you see anybody in the state, or, you know, that you come across, pass them along at any college. First question I ask them is, well, okay, what are you looking for? What does your perfect prospect look like at your position? That way I'm not wasting time sending them a 240-pound offensive lineman with a lot of room for growth when I know they may be like Kyle Flood and they may just, they have a type and they prefer big bodies right now. And, you know, so I think everybody kind of does that to an extent. For Texas, a lot of their focus is on getting SEC ready and getting those big bodies up front. A lot of size and a lot of length. That's kind of the priority at this point. You know, at receiver, I think it's a pretty universal thing. Some people prefer the big guys. Some people prefer the, you know, smaller, quicker guys. I think in year one, the way we saw Texas recruit, they kind of just said, give us 3 or 4, you know, speed guys and we'll be happy with that. Brennan Marion's added a little different element to that, where he does want that true X big body receiver, and that's where you saw with Jonah Wilson. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's got a little bit of that in them.
I'm going to ask you to off of recruiting and on to really the football team as it sits today, getting ready for fall ball, or, you know, fall camp, and then moving into the season. If you were, you know, a betting man, who would you bet starts the at quarterback? Who's quarterback one at the beginning of the season? If you were a betting man, Mike Roach, as it sits today.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to preface this that I've heard nothing, you know, firm has been decided or anything like that. So this is just me guessing. If I'm a betting man, I'll bet Quinn Ewers. I'll bet on the talent level, and I'll bet on the, you know, I think there's, it's a little telling to me that Ewers is kind of almost assumed the starting role in the way he acts. And you can see that a lot on social media, you know, like when there's big visitors on campus, it's like, okay, Xavier Worthy's there with them, Johnny Barron's there with them, and almost always Quinn's there with them. Quinn's kind of the guy that's been out front and been the face of things. And so that matters a little bit to me. I do think that the talent is there. And I think that if you obviously think Quinn is who he is, and you know, I'll tell people all the time he's the best quarterback I've ever seen at the high school level. So if you think he is that, I think you kind of get the development going right now and get things started.
Say,
All right,
Mike, I think his potential gives you, I'm sorry, Clint, but I'm going to jump in there real quick. Yeah, I think his potential, he gives you the biggest upside, of course, right, with the arm talent. And I think there's something to be said with having the team gather around you. And it just seems by social, like you're saying, in the pictures that you see, in the gatherings that you have with the starters and the receivers and the running backs, Quinn's always that guy you see. So I think it has to do a lot with my perception is that he's kind of galvanized the team around himself, or they've galvanized themselves around him. And that's what makes me say that, as much as his God-given arm talent, which I judge the same way you do. That he can make every throw on the field. I mean, his South Lake Carroll film speaks for itself, but I totally agree with that. Clint, your follow-up?
No, follow-up was going over to the offensive line, the guys that are going to protect, obviously either Quinn Ewers or Hudson Card as it sits today, right? I mean, I think all three of us probably agree on who we think is probably going to be the starting quarterback, you know, on September 3rd, you know, that Saturday against ULM. Do you think there's a chance that you're going to have any true freshmen starting in that 5, even guys that are early enrollees are maybe starting in that front 5 when the season starts?
Yeah, I think Cole Hudson's got a great chance to land the starting guard spot. I thought he had a really good spring. I think that position is in enough question. So where can you find a true answer? I don't think you can. So I think he has every chance to win it in the fall camp, and you know, maybe that allows you to push a more talented player who's playing guard, and just to kind of fill a hole, maybe you could put him somewhere else, and that strengthens your overall line. I thought last year we got caught up in Kelvin Banks and DJ Campbell, and rightly so, but you know, I always thought Cole was a college-ready guy almost from the beginning. He had the size, he had the tenacity. He's played it for a while. He had a lot of experience, knew what he was doing, and so it didn't surprise me to see him perform as well as he did this spring. And so he's the guy I would probably bet on if I had to bet on one. Now, long-term, I mean, my answer to kind of everything is DJ Campbell. It's kind of like the answer to every question I have. That, you know, who's the best guy they signed in the 2022 class is DJ Campbell. Who's the kid who's like probably can make the biggest impact up front? It's DJ Campbell. Who's the guy I think is going to play early? It's DJ Campbell. Like, he's the answer to every question I have. So I think at some point he will force his way in there. I think early on, Cole's got the jump on him with the spring, and I think that might play out.
And it's crazy, Mike, because I was reading Clint, and I grabbed a national preview publication, right, that has depth charts in it. And I said, you realize that this publication has printed and published that DJ Campbell's going to be your starting left tackle game one, and that Kelvin Banks is going to be your starting right tackle game one, and that Cole Hudson's somewhere on the 2 deep. I just don't know that that's feasible. That's why I kind of called him and said, hey, can you believe that they haven't even stepped on campus? They haven't even started. They stepped on campus, but they haven't started fall workouts, and they think that 2 incoming freshmen, as great as they are, 5 stars, are going to start on the offensive line game one.
Well, I mean, just first of all, and maybe Kyle Flood does it and proves me wrong. DJ Campbell's not a tackle. He's 6'2". I mean, he's just not going to have the length to deal with guys on the outside. He's a very, 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 very good interior offensive lineman. So, I mean, I think starting just from there as him at left tackle day one is a tough look for that publication.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. That's why I called him instantly when I read it. That's why I'm not turning the cover over so nobody sees exactly who wrote it. But I like a lot of their other stuff, but their depth chart I call into question.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
I think a lot of
Go
that
ahead,
stuff floating around this time of year it's a lot of people just throwing darts at a board.
Yeah,
I'm a big Cam Williams fan, so that's who I'm rooting for. Big Cam.
Look, I was probably the biggest Cam critic just because I had seen him a lot and wasn't a fan of the body composition that I saw during his junior year. And Cam worked really hard, got some weight down. And then I saw him when we were on campus in June covering that Elite Day. Cam walked by, and I thought he looked phenomenal. I think he's done a great job. It looks like, obviously, from being in the strength and conditioning part. I root for every kid to succeed, so I hope the Cam proves my initial doubts wrong. And I think, if you can unlock that, he does have some special traits, and if you can unlock them, he could be a big time player for you.
Absolutely. And like, again, that's the guy with mass, similar to the guys like Andre Kojo and Connor Stroh, and just these huge human beings they're bringing in the program. And like you said, their body comp's not exactly where they want it to be, probably, and not where University of Texas wanted it to be. But then you get in Torrey Beckton's strength and conditioning program, or you just work your tail off and you get down to moving bodies at a decent weight.
Yeah. Got a question. When it comes to recruiting rankings, who has the biggest chance for a senior year jump as we see it today?
I think Trevor Gooseby has a great shot to rise this year just because he does have so many projectable traits. He's newer to football, hasn't played it a lot, so and was injured last year, so didn't get a lot of film. I think with a strong year, he's got a chance to really rise. The other guy I think I could see going up is maybe Samaje Burrell, just from a standpoint of, I think he's a really good linebacker. I think if we could get some verified stuff on him, especially athleticism. If we knew how fast Samaje Burrell is, he might already be able to go up because I think he's fast. I can see it on the field, but, we like to verify our information and make sure it's as good as it can be. So those are, I guess, the two guys I would highlight as maybe senior riser candidates.
That's pretty good because they've been on the show in the last 2 weeks, both of those guys. Yeah. Yeah, and Trevor's another basketball guy, right? So it just seems like everybody we've interviewed or talked to is playing multiple sports. Like, I could put a big man basketball team with DJ Campbell, Cam Williams, Trevor Gooseby, like a big man basketball squad. And if you go to talk to Samaje, he runs track, and all your wide receivers are running track. Is that something this staff has really looked into? Because we asked the kids, hey, what's the deal with multiple sports? And of course, they say conditioning. But your thoughts on the staff really recruiting guys that play multiple sports?
I think colleges as a whole look for that these days. It's a very important data point for not only for colleges, but for us as well when we look at rank guys in the rankings. If you're not playing multiple sports, you're hurting yourself. I mean, there are not only conditioning, but getting faster. There are skills that translate in other sports. to athleticism. And I think that, if you're not playing multiple sport, like if you look at the draft, I think 90% of the first round were multi-sport guys. I mean, it's the way things are going. And I think kids should be kids and they should enjoy playing different things, and specializing too early, I think, is a problem.
All right, I'm going to give you 5 names to put you on the spot because we only got you for 5 more minutes, Mike. All right, I'm going to give you 5 names. And out of those 5 names, you don't have to tell me who they are. Who do we have what's the number that we may land, okay? I'm going to give you Hill, 𝗟𝗓𝗏, Shelby, 𝗟𝗜𝗞𝗘, and Malik Muhammad.
All defense.
Yeah, and so they certainly need it. The defense certainly needs it. I'll start by saying I think Texas can legitimately land every single one of those guys, and it wouldn't shock me. What do I think will happen? The conservative part of me wants to say they'll land 3, because I'm almost assured they'll land 3 of those guys, and I can go low and make sure I hit the answer right. I think I'll go with 4. I could see them landing 4 of those 5, and I can honestly see them landing 5 of those 5, but I'll go with 4 just to play the odds.
I got a question. Who gets the trip to Laie, Hawaii to see 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗏𝗦 in season?
I mean, it's good to be the recruiting editor. That's the person that gets to make that decision. So we're already working on getting to Laie, is how it's pronounced, Laie, Hawaii. And actually, it may not be till after the season. It may be for the Polynesian Bowl in January, because I feel like a trip in January when it's cold here to Hawaii would be just what I need.
Yeah, I was actually stationed on Oahu for 3 years in the military. So yeah, I spent plenty of time up there on the North Shore, not watching ball, just hanging out on Sunset. But yeah, take a good week, Mike. Good things happen when you go on vacation. You know that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a proven thing, and it went on steroids while I was in Mexico. So I feel bad. I was talking to Hudson Stanish, who works with me, and just said that, I didn't cover the commitments for like a quarter of this class because I was on vacation when they happened. So 12, I mean, that'd almost be half the class that I wasn't around the day they committed. Now, of course, I had Jonte's commitment story written before I left. I had his quotes. I did the voiceover in his recruitment video or his commitment video. So I knew obviously where that one was going. And I think one other I may have had pre-written, but yeah, it was a good vacation for me and for Texas fans in general.
So I have a comment here from the folks watching here. Would Hill be arch of the defense, or I'm going to say what defensive guy that if they committed right now would have the same impact as obviously, Arch did, during his commitment?
I don't know if there is one. I'll say this, like, elite guys want to play with other elite guys. So the more elite guys you add, the more elite guys you have the chance of adding. And so I think adding Hill, it opens the eyes of guys like 𝗟𝗓𝗏𝗘 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗏𝗏 and Malik Muhammad. And, you see kind of what the class is building to and could be. And so I don't think there's anybody, man, I don't know if there's anybody that's ever been that would have the impact Arch did when he committed. So I think to say there's a defensive one would be selling it short. I just think that, keep adding elite talent, and other elite talent will want to keep coming and playing.
Yeah, I think what Clint meant to ask was who makes the most impact. Would Hill be the most impactful for the defense, or would it be 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏? Would it be Hicks? I believe it'd be Hill. I think he's your most needed asset.
Yeah, I mean, I've for like 2 years have thought Anthony Hill's the best football player pound for pound in the state of Texas. Even as a sophomore, watching him was just like, okay, this kid is playing at an extremely high level at a position that you don't see the state produce a ton of. It's a huge need for Texas. I think impact-wise on the field, he would be my guy that I would pick for sure.
And I did want to ask you one thing, because I think it's just clickbait, and I don't want to mention any names, but recently you look at Arch Manning's offer list, right? And it includes everybody. It includes everybody who's playing for national championships. But then once he picks a school, then everybody wants to call into question the team that he plays for, the competition that he goes against, the division in which he plays. What do you make of all this? I would say more media than competitive football team, or maybe just fans of other teams, just beating up Arch Manning and his skill set since he picked Texas.
It's not totally unexpected, but I think that it's one of the more asinine things I've heard in my time doing this. I mean, he is the most legitimately like hated recruit, and it's weird because he's such a nice kid. He's not a big social presence to where you're like, okay, I understand why people hate him. Like, he doesn't, you don't ever hear from him. So like, how can you really hate him? Nobody really knows much about him. You know, I've probably talked face to face with Arch more than 99% of this industry, and yet I don't feel like I know a ton about him. So it's weird to me that people do that. I think that when people start saying if his last name wasn't Manning, I pull out of the conversation immediately, because we've gotten to that point. That's their last ditch effort. And to me, it's like, you know, his last name is Manning, and that's a very important component to why we think he could be who he can be. I mean, yeah, if you want to talk blind resumes, I guess, but that's something you have to factor in. You know, it's almost like saying, like, well, you know, if you didn't, I don't even know, like, if you didn't put hot fudge sundae, it wouldn't be that good. Well, it's a hot fudge sundae, so we put hot fudge on it. You know, like that's you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it is a very big component. It's a very rare pedigree. It's a pedigree that has proven successful time over time over time. I mean, we're talking about the lowest Manning ever drafted was drafted number 2 overall out of 3 of them. So, I mean, it works. So, not to mention the talent is there. I mean, yeah, does he play against the best competition? No. But you know what? There's a lot of guys year over year that, and I would venture to say to those people, if his last name wasn't Manning, people would not have these critiques. Just wouldn't. They wouldn't. It feels like we've known about him for too long. We do this thing in recruiting all the time where if we've known about a guy for a long time, we get bored like right around his senior year, and we just start picking little things apart about him because we've talked about him so much. And, you know, to me, frankly, especially given the person who gave that take on social media today with a big voice, it's an attempt as they're fading into irrelevance to grab some relevance.
That's exactly what I thought. Can I ask one more, Mike?
No, go ahead.
Yes. So I'm going to ask you about recruiting rankings, only because we were asked a couple of weeks ago, or told this a couple of weeks ago, and I don't believe it. Class rankings, are they based on your top 20, or are they totality of the class?
I believe I will have to check on this for you, because I think I asked this question last year. I do believe it is a totality, but when you start assigning points to a recruit, it assigns a heavier weight within the first 20 guys in the class versus the last bottom half of the class. And that's why, you know, you can add specialists and long snappers and punters and not worry about your class average really tanking that much, because if you have enough numbers, it pushes those guys down. It's not totally based on that, but I think it changes the weight of which it's graded. But I'll have to get clarification on that.
All right. That's all I got then.
All right, Mike, we will let you go. We know you're a busy man. I was on 247 today. If you haven't gone over there, please go over there and visit. He did a lunchtime. Try not to take any of those questions from your lunchtime chat today. Was looking at that, kind of going through there. But hey, if you want some really good insider information, tune in to Horns 247. I'll let you do that shout out, Mike. I'll let you also do a shout out on your book before we let you exit here.
Yeah, so Horns 24/7, where Hudson Sandish and I have a lot of information going up every day. And if you guys haven't read Hudson, you should. He's the next kind of rising star in the industry, and I was really proud of how he handled that week of recruiting activity while I was gone, and having to handle that on his own. I thought he crushed it. Just kind of checking in from a faraway land. Check me out at Mike Roach 247 on Twitter. And then the book, The Road to Texas, Incredible Twists and Improbable Turns Along the Longhorn Recruiting Trail, is out in October. It's going to be great. Please buy the book. It means a lot to me. If you buy the book, like, screenshot it, send it to me when you order, and I will for sure like retweet it with something nice. I mean, my greatest fear was like writing this book, and I spent a lot of time on it last year. I wrote this book mostly during the fall of last year, fall and winter of last last year. So the deadline to turn the manuscript in was March 1st. So it's like we were coming down to signing day. I was also dealing with the fact that I had like 10% of the book done in January, and I had to write the other 90% between then and March. And, buckled down. It was a lot of late nights, but I did it. My greatest fear was that it wouldn't sell, that it would just kind of flatline. And I think that's a fear for anybody that does something like that and themselves out there. So far, the support has been incredible. And I'm really actually like extremely touched by how many people have reached out and were like, yes, I will pre-order your book. So it means a lot to me. Please don't think it doesn't. And go check it out. You can pre-order on Amazon, also on Triumph Books, and kind of anywhere where you get books.
We're going to need a signature on ours, Mike.
Absolutely. Right. I'm literally willing to sign anybody's who will buy it. So my family, I get a box of free ones when they come out. That's like what the family's getting for Christmas is signed books from me. But I will literally, a bunch of people have asked, like, will you sign? Yes, I will send it to me. Like, I'll pay for like whatever we got to do. If you catch me out somewhere, I will sign it. I promise.
Awesome. So we're going to let you go, Mike. Thanks for joining us again. I know you've been on the show quite a few times. We really, really appreciate you having on here. But hey, appreciate Mike. Thank you so much. And you have a wonderful night. Okay.
Thanks for having me, fellas. Y'all keep up the great work.
Hey, thank you, man. Appreciate you as always. All righty. Let me change the background here to our, I think this, and it's me and you again, man. So, hey, we appreciate everybody tonight. I think we have 93 people in here watching now. We have 56 likes. Please hit that like button. Really, really appreciate it. If you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. But yeah, let's answer some questions for the next 23 minutes. We just wanted to get Mike Roach on here. We appreciate his time. We know he's busy. He's writing a lot of content, him and Hudson Standish over at 247. So anytime we can get him on here, we really, really, really enjoy it. And I tried to ask some questions too. You know, I didn't want to hold back tonight. It surprised me, the 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5. That's big time, because you're talking about 5 guys that are within that 5-star, almost that 5-star status. So you're talking about 3 guys you already have in the class on top of having an opportunity for another 5 and maybe a Deuce Robinson.
And again, these are 5-star caliber kids. When you're talking about 𝗟𝗏𝗘, Muhammad, Hill, Galetas has a chance to get there. He's talking about Samaje Burrell making a big jump. He's talking about Trevor Gooseby making a big jump. And the question we didn't ask, but we'll have him on again by the time this recruiting cycle ends, is where does he think the team's going to end up? Because if you're trending, like he said, he's being conservative at 3 out of 5. He's leaning more towards 4. If you get 4 out of 5 of those guys, you're probably going to get the 5th one too. That's what he's not telling you. That's what I'm reading into it. And if you get those 5 athletes on the defensive side of the ball, coupled with Arch Manning and the athletes that you've already acquired on the offensive side of the ball, you're going to finish in that top 3. And followed up with a top 5 class last year. And that's why we can't be more excited about this coaching staff's ability to build this football team. Now, again, the Saturday results grow once the talent gets there, to develop the talent to show up on Saturdays. That's something different. But these guys are recruiting their tail off to get the best, players at the University of Texas after a 5-7 season. Just imagine what they could do, if we start winning football games. Because, like he said, they're great recruiters. They're everywhere. They took over the city of Dallas when Dallas, like he said, under Herman, really wasn't a playground for Texas. They couldn't get into DeSoto, Duncanville, Cedar Hill, Lancaster, and Oak Cliff. That wasn't happening for them. So, it's very encouraging, what's happening, but continue to build.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing what you talked about is not just getting into Dallas, man, but trying to win Houston. And if you go back and look at that class that A&M had last year, it was talent out of Houston. We did that in 2018. We went into Houston in 2018 and grabbed Cook, Jameson, and a whole host of guys. Obviously Stearns came from the San Antonio area, but to me, Dallas and Houston is what wins you championships. And then you have to go, I think, out of state to be able to clean up those pieces. But on the defense side of the ball, on the big bodies, for some reason in the state of Texas, it seems like they're very far few in between, and you have to go get those big body guys outside of the state of Texas when you're talking about defensive linemen.
Right, and the Houston guy that was in that class, you're talking about Jalen Green, Deshaun Jameson, and then Anthony Cook. But the big guy to that class came out of Spring Westfield, and that was 𝗟𝗓𝗓 Coburn. And then Huntsville, I mean, that's split the difference between. I mean, that's not Houston. That's closer to College Station than it is Houston. But those were the big guys that they were getting. But yeah, and that's why I asked them the question about Houston, because you got guys on the board that are from Houston that are still takes, like Braylon Shelby, who's going to announce the top 3 tomorrow. He's from that Friendswood area. We've never been in Friendswood. He's the best player to come out of Friendswood in 10 years. So, you know, it's just one of those things that you have to own Dallas, you have to own Houston, and then you have to go from corner to corner, finding the best football players you possibly can, because he said it. Mac thrived on in-state players, and he wished he would have gone out of state towards the end of his tenure. And then, like I said, Herman never had a foothold in Dallas. Herman never had a foothold in Houston. He left Houston. So I don't know. I'm just excited about, like I said, this coaching staff's ability to recruit. Now in the fall, we got to see that talent development, and then, you know, scheming and game plan that leads to more wins than 5.
If we could keep taking the top 2 players out of Louisiana every year, too, that'll be gigantic, let alone dominating our own state. I think Louisiana is going to get a little bit more difficult. I think you have a new head coach there. You have a new coaching staff there. It's trying to build relationships. You know, in the state of Louisiana guys usually don't leave the state of Louisiana. So to me, yes, if you could go in there and pick some guys out. Another guy that we're looking at right now in the state of Louisiana, I think there's 2 of them actually. 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗕𝗘, right? And
𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗧
Jordan Matthews.
Jordan Matthews.
If you get those 2, Jordan Matthews, if you get a Jordan Matthews, 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗓𝗕, Malik Muhammad, and
Derek Williams,
Derek Williams.
I think you're looking really good.
Yeah, I think the defense is always going to be my concern when you have a head coach that understands offenses. And like I said before, they could probably go up here to the local HEB and grab a sack boy and put him on the football team and find space on a football field and get him the ball. So
shout out to Nino's Corner, who's out here. Just want to
absolutely,
appreciate the love, Nino. Glad you stopped by. Feel free to hit us up with any questions you might have. If you do, probably don't, because you're pretty on top of it. But if you do, shoot something at us.
You got our Jacob Woodard there. Man, we need to get all the great content creators out at a game for a tailgate somewhere. We actually met at the spring game. I think we had almost everybody there. I think Nino lives up in the Northeast, I think, so he wasn't able to make it to the spring game. But I want to say that we had all the content creators that we know.
Lando, Behind Enemy Lines, and I don't want to leave anybody out.
I don't either. That's why we're going to say no names. Homer, yeah. It was quite a few of us. Yeah, it was quite a few of us, and we actually met at the spring game, which was really, really cool. We also had an opportunity to meet Miss Candace Queen Bee, who shouts us out all the time, who's on here tonight, who's excited about next season. As we are, we're excited about this season coming up. We're excited about the next season and next season after that. But I want to make sure that I minimize these burn orange glasses right now, because I don't want to have heartache until I see something that's really good. I don't know. We got some. So Nino says coming to 2 games this year, coming to a game this year or 2, which would be pretty cool. I think me and Jeremy are trying to figure out our schedule to see what is possible for us to get to a game. I think we're going to try to make the first game. Can't do that. I'll actually my wife scheduled a trip to Disney World. Thank goodness it's a night game, and I'll be on the East Coast. So we'll be back in the hotel by the time the game starts. She understood that when she made this trip.
I'm going to throw this one up here real quick. You get high 4 and 5-star players. You are all ready ahead of on development. Yeah, I would agree. But I talked about JW on a couple of lives ago about the offensive line specifically, and how we had 4 and 5-star recruits on the offensive line that didn't play, and that your 2 draft picks, Connor Williams was a 3-star, and Sam Cosby was a 3-star. So yeah, they may be more developed coming out of high school, but if they don't continue to develop, then and get passed up by these guys who are rated by recruiting services as being less than, but they work their tail off in the weight room and pick up the playbook and do what they're supposed to do. That happens. And again, if you talk to Mike, the recruiting rankings, like he talked about with Arch, are based upon a projection that once they leave college, what they're going to do, more than it is what they're doing right then and there. That's why he said, I got to get a speed on 𝗟𝗏𝗄𝗏. If I got a speed on 𝗟𝗏𝗄𝗏, I feel like he would jump up on most boards to that high 4-star, because he's already a 4-star to 5-star range. So yeah, I agree that in the system that we work with, that 4- and 5-star recruits generally are better than those. If they don't continue to develop once they hit college, then they can get caught up to or passed up.
All right, so there was a question that was posed on the Horns 247 page today, right? And I want to get everybody else's take on this. All right, here we go. Texas beats Alabama and they go 6-6, right? Or Texas loses to Alabama, but they go 8-4. Which season do you take? What season do you take?
Me?
Yeah, what season do you take?
I want a winning record. I want to compete for a Big 12 championship. Like an out-of-conference loss to Alabama doesn't mean as much to me. Now, do I want to play well against Alabama? Absolutely, I do. Do I want to make a good account for my football team and be able to tell recruits, hey, we're almost there to compete with the likes of Alabama? But it's not worth two other wins to me. 8-4 is definitely where I want to be, because again, 6-6 with an out-of-conference win. I don't know. I'll take 8-4.
My answer to that is if you are 3-0 going into conference play, that means you went 3-6 in conference play to end up 6-6. Absolutely not. Clint can't deal with that again. So 8-4, play Alabama close, beat Oklahoma, and then see where we're at the end of the season. So
yeah, Alabama, a non-conference win against Alabama.
I haven't seen it, man. I'm like,
would it feel great for one day? Absolutely. But if you're telling me I got to take, what did you say the record was the rest of the way? 3-6?
3-6.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'll take 6-3.
I can't deal with it having a channel going 3-6 again during conference play. I can tell you that now. Yeah, somebody's so solid
on the board. Yeah.
Yeah. You beat Alabama by 50 points, but if you go 3-6 in conference, what did it do for you? You know? 8-4, no doubt. Yeah, I think 8-4 is the floor, man. I really think 10-2 is the ceiling, to be honest with you. I really do. I think you'll have, to me, lose to Alabama. Like I said, I until Texas can show me they can beat a team like Alabama, I'm going to count that as count that up as a loss. And then you lose one, in conference game, or you go, I just think 10-2 is the ceiling, 8-4 is the floor.
Yeah, I mean, he's got it right. At that point, you can't even brag about beating Alabama. You finish 6-6. Again, the team out east beat Alabama last year, and they went 8-4 and thought they'd won a national championship. But that's not the way we do things here. You know what I mean? Like, we want to compete for conference championships. Again, one non-conference win against a team that is perennial been the power. Would that have some clout? Absolutely, have clout. Till you lose the next game to a team you weren't supposed to lose to. And then, like you said, going 3-6 the rest of the way, absolutely not. 8-4, take it all day long. Again, I think that's the floor for this team. I'm more of a 9-3 guy at this point. But yeah, you asked me that question. One out of conference win doesn't equal a decent conference record.
All right, so let's talk about the football team real quick, and we'll start getting into more of that as time goes on. I'm going to give you a defensive backfield of Watts, Jamison, Jahdae Barron, Keaton Crawford, and Anthony Cook. Who's going to be in your eyes? Who do you think is going to be the best defensive back this year?
Anthony Cook. I like the position change. I do. I like the position change. He plays everywhere on the field. He's a senior. Having him at the back end, I think he's a good communicator. I think he may not show in stats, but I think he will be – he's kind of like everybody knows I love Josh Thompson, right? Josh Thompson was the glue of the defensive backfield. He played everywhere. He played in the slot. He played outside. He played safety. Now that Anthony Cook is that guy, give me Anthony Cook for his senior year.
I think Johnny Barrett at the nickel position is probably going to make the biggest impact on the football team. To me, that number 5 guy, back there in the defensive backfield, to me, covering those slot, the slot wide receivers, be able to, move down the line if you need to help stop the run as a third linebacker. I think Johnny Barrett, I think Johnny probably has the better season. I love Anthony Cook, man. I love, his humbleness. I love kind of where his mindset is right now. So I absolutely want him to do well, but I'd say probably Johnny Barrett.
Who do I want it to be? Ryan Watts. I want to shut down corner on one side so I can roll coverage to the other. And that's who I want it to be. I want it to be a corner. But I think it's going to be Anthony Cook. Because like I said, I think he's going to be the guy that holds everything together back there. Again, it might not show on the stat line, but you ask me who's going to have the best season. I think it's because, again, he'll come up in the run game. Like he will. They might bring him on some safety blitzes. Like he gets to quarterbacks. He makes stops in the backfield on swing routes. Like he will come up and he will hit you. So I think I might be talking myself in a production standpoint as well. But who I want it to be is a lockdown. I want to have a lockdown corner. That's what I want to have.
Yeah, I think most of these guys, and I think this is from Corey Peacock, I want a secondary that can tackle. And I think outside of, obviously, Watts hasn't played a lot of college football, so it's hard to tell where he's at. He's a big guy. I think sits probably 6'2", which is a big corner. Mm-hmm. Cook, if you go back and look at his tape, he's done really good at, obviously been a really good tackler. But I'm with him on this, man. To me, it's not just about coverage. It's about being able to tackle the ball carrier once they get past that, that front seven. So I'm with you on that as well, Corey. Y'all think 𝗟𝗓 𝗟𝗓𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗜𝗕𝗘 come back and beats out Jamison? Really think he may take a back seat this season and stick to special teams this year? Has not played well the past 2 years. Not sure. I like 𝗟𝗓 𝗟𝗓𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗑𝗕, and it sounds like that he was pushing, Jamison for time during the spring, but really don't know where he sits on the football team right now. I know that he's trying to get back in their good graces. We'll kind of see where that leads. But again, he was pushing Jamison during the spring. I think rotating out with the one. So obviously they see the talent there, and I think there may be an opportunity.
I mean, in his time at Port Arthur Memorial is exactly what you want. He has great size. He's physical, but he's a true freshman. That's asking me like I haven't seen him any game film to tell you, yeah, he will push Jamison for a spot. I don't have any practice film from spring. All we got is reports saying that he played well, and like Clint said, he's running with the ones. He's a strong physical corner, the kind you want on your football team, but is he going to push for first-team stats? I don't know.
Yeah, so Texas Homer, he's a second-string nickel behind Johnny Barrett, and I think he just put out some film this week on Twitter talking about 𝗟𝗓 𝗟𝗓𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥𝗑𝗕, and I think he was actually practicing, running drills as a slot corner, nickelback. I think he was running some film as that. So kind of tells you where he's at. Thanks for that, Texas Homer. I appreciate it. Texas Homer set up here. What did he say? He said 8-4 all day. We'll get another shot at Bama next year and going into the SEC. Man, it's all about, obviously trying to play those guys well. But to me, it's all about how many wins you have this year so you can keep that momentum on that recruiting train as well going into really 2024, because you are showing progress. And that's what these recruits definitely want to see. What else we got here? You see anything here?
No, I just want to remind everybody there's 94 folks in here. I don't know where the likes are at. I don't have that stuff up because Mike was in here. But if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, please do that. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to our channel, please do that. I know the folks in here, we changed it tonight because Mike was in here and may do this going forward, that we want you to subscribe to the channel to be able to chat with us. We may continue that, but we did that specifically for Mike tonight. So please subscribe to our channel. Please like this video. Please come back. Check out the other stuff we've done over the past week if you haven't. We've had recruit interviews with 2 of the 23 commits. I had Derek Johnson on last week, working really hard now that we're back to provide great content. And I say that to say this: Texas Homer's in here, Nino's Corner's in here. You guys know a Fanatic Respected. Please support those guys as well. We are a content creator family on YouTube, us guys. So please support them. Please check out their videos as well. And again, support the family.
And I think somebody sent out a tweet the other day that said the Texas Longhorn content creation on YouTube is the best in college football. And I truly believe that, because when we leave here, honestly, when Texas Homer puts out a video, it notifies me that he puts out a video, I go straight to that video and I'm watching it probably within the 10, 15 seconds. When Corner's putting out, a commitment corner, like what we used to call commitment corner, like a recruiting corner where he's talking about these recruits and their film and stuff, I'm going over to watch those. So me and Jeremy sit here and stay on YouTube a lot, watching other content creators. Please, like Jeremy said, it's a big family. Definitely make sure you're watching, all that content as well. But we definitely appreciate each and every one of you. I do have one question, because I think it's important for us to know what they want from us. And so I actually have two questions. What content would you like to see from Texas Football Talk? And I think that's important at the end of the show tonight. What content would you like to see? I know we do a lot of recruiting as fall happens. We'll get into really what we're hearing reports of with the football team. And then obviously we'll go into, college game day atmosphere come, the first game. And what time works best for y'all? Is it 7:30, 8 o'clock? I'd definitely like to know that too. It seems like we get, our crowd is larger at the end of the show than it is at the beginning. And that may be because, somebody else is on at a specific time, but definitely love to know what time y'all would do these, like to have these shows done.
And I think this is our first Tuesday show. I think we've done Wednesdays. I think we've done Saturdays. We've done Fridays, but I think this is our Tuesday show. We were originally supposed to go on last night with Mike. We had to move it back until today, and I'm thankful he was, still able to come on with us. We just like Clint said, we want to know what kind of content you want. We're trying to be as versatile as we possibly can. Again, that's why we try to bring players on here, try to do the live shows, former players. Like I said, with Derek Johnson, when that opportunity came up, we jumped on that. Just trying to bring you as versatile content as we possibly can, as many days as we could possibly do it. Again, I'm currently on vacation, still on vacation till the 17th, so it's easier now. But no, just love doing this. Glad we're back, and please continue to support our channel along with those other channels that we already talked about.
I want to say thank you to Mary. Y'all hyping each other up only adds to the product. Keep us all schooled. Love your channel. Hey, we appreciate that. Love that you love the channel. Thank you so much. Keep watching. And we appreciate you, Mary. Depth chart and position talk is one. Like I said, once we get into, actually fairly soon, I think fall camp starts, I think August 4th. So as we start getting into fall camp, we will pull out the nice, magazines and stuff and start going really through those and going through the 2 deep and who we think we're going to project as the 2 deep and who may be the starters. And that always starts really good conversation, because that's when the burnt orange glasses start coming on, because you start hearing all these reports coming out of practice. And then that's when we kind of pull it back a little bit.
Grab that one. What are the odds of an interview with CDC? It would be great. Again, we got our picture taken with Cristo Conte at the spring game. Yeah, it's a horrible photo. That's why you probably don't see it on any of our socials, because I'm not a very good selfie taker. But we'll shoot our shot, Mary. We'll ask him to come on. It'd be great. Just like any assistant coach, we have quite a few assistant coaches that follow us on Twitter. If they would like to come on the show, i.e. Brendan Marion, that's the guy I really want on the show. If he'd like to come on, I'd definitely love to interview him about the ins and outs of the daily life of a position coach when it comes to recruiting, how much time he spends on game plan, and then developing his players. That's really one I'd like to do. And then somebody asked about our dream Texas interview. Probably, shoot, that's a tough one. Do you have one? Your all-time Longhorn player interview or coach?
Interview or
Yeah.
coach?
If we could get him on here. I think
I'd
Ricky would be cool.
I think I'd probably have to go Colt McCoy. I think I'd probably go Colt McCoy. If somebody got on Twitter right now and they started saying, Colt McCoy needs to get on Texas Football Talk, that'd be perfect for me. Or we just do, Vince Young, Colt McCoy. We just get a whole bunch of people on here. So the list goes on and on. I don't know who you could single out. There's so many, players from the 90s, really in that 2000s, where, me and Jeremy, are sitting there watching them continuously win 10 games after 10 games after 10 games and win a national championship. I could pull everybody from those teams and be happy getting those guys on.
Because my favorite player, my favorite guy off that 2005 national championship team was Billy Pittman from Cameron Yo. He was a small town kid. Just like, I love Billy Pittman. It seemed like when Texas need to make a play in that 2005 year, minus Limas in the end zone against Ohio State, it was Billy Pittman. Billy Pittman was my guy. So if I get Billy Pittman on here, Quan Cosby be another great one. Rod Babers. I'd love to get Rod on here. Rod hosts his own, afternoon show and has his own Longhorn Blitz podcast. Love to get Rod on here. But yeah, I mean, there's love to have everybody that would be willing to come on this show and talk Texas ball with us. Come on this show and talk ball.
I do have something I'm going to pull up here real quick, and I kind of let you talk about it a little bit. Somebody wanted us to do a game time. Where's it at? A game day collab with all the creators would be so cool. And I think that Jeremy is thinking about actually doing a game day, or actually game commentary for both the Alabama and Oklahoma games. And that's something that we currently have in the works that me and Jeremy are still kind of talking about. But I think Jeremy's thinking about doing commentary, have the game up. And then he's actually, obviously if people are chatting, he's doing some game day commentary during those two football games. For me, I'm halfway between a heart attack and a stroke during those situations. So I definitely wouldn't be good company.
Yeah, so guys that have followed this channel for a while understand the in-game chats. Generally, we just let the chat do what it does, and then every now and then we'll write a comment. What we're talking about is for the big games like Oklahoma and Alabama, leave the mics open and the TV on back here and following along the game with you guys and allowing you to chat and talk and me have the mic. But again, we're talking about building it as part of a package. So we'll see what evolves in it, but something new may be coming out from Texas Football Talk.
Yeah. Texas Homer said the same thing. Yeah, live watch alongs will be fun, except I get too furious when they suck. I'm with you, Homer. I'm with you. I'm screaming, yelling. My dogs are going crazy because I'm screaming and yelling. So yeah, it would definitely be difficult for me to do game day commentation because TV might not be up very long. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just saying. I'm saying I'm going to do it. I'm not saying it's going to be clean. Like, I'll watch my mouth and won't do anything to offend anybody. But no, if I walk past this camera and walk outside, you just know I need to breathe. I just have to hold it in and release it outside. Give me a minute. But yeah, no, it's something we'd like to do. We don't know how much interest is really in it. But yeah. We'll see.
All right.
Like I said, we're trying to evolve the channel.
Let's do this real quick. Any dark horse candidates for NFL draft next year?
I don't know who they consider dark horse. Like Bijan, of course, is not a dark horse. I think DeMarvian's going to get drafted.
I think T'Vondre Sweat put out a quote that I seen on Instagram, I believe, that Brendan Marion might have shared. And I think it says, you have 1 year to change your life to get where you want to go. I don't know if that's the exact quote. I'm going to say T'Vondre Sweat. And I think T'Vondre Sweat, I think from a body standpoint, from a speed standpoint, I think if T'Vondre Sweat has a really good season this year, really good season, and I've been hollering this for 2 years, I love me some T'Vondre Sweat when he, 2 years ago, last year. But if I think T'Vondre Sweat puts it together this year, I think to me he's a dark horse to go within the first couple of rounds of the NFL draft.
Yeah, I'm thinking same position. I'm thinking Alfred Collins. Alfred Collins will be a junior this year. If he plays like he did his freshman year, and they pick a position for him, and he does what I think he can do, he could definitely be draft eligible. Now, will he go early? I don't know, but he's definitely a dark horse candidate that has that, like you said, that size, speed, quick twitch combination that the NFL really likes. To where if he plays well enough and is productive, he could definitely go draft. I think Jordan Whittington's a guy like that. Keep him, stay healthy, be productive like he was in the first part of the season. We know he's fast. We know he's a big body guy. He could be draftable. As far as seniors, though, I don't see a whole, and maybe an Anthony Cook, maybe Deshaun Jameson, but they're not really. You'd have to tell me, this is kind of one of those things I'd have to see mid-season. Where's the production? How are they playing? All those things to let you know if they were draft eligible. But dark horses could be anybody, and I guess mine would be Alfred Collins.
Let me see here. Candace was going to say Keandre. That's who Candace was going to say. What's that eye roll for? All right, moving on here. What do you see? What do you see here? What do you see has caused the D lineman to not develop? I think it's changes. To me, I think, again, you've had so many coordinators with some of these guys been around for a long time. I think some of it's scheme, but I think just some of it is, and this may sound bad, but I think it's purely a getting out muscled by the other team standpoint. It may be that the coaching staff that brought these guys on seen them for more than what they were worth. But I don't think it's totally development. I don't think it's all scheme oriented. I think that sometimes that you may come out as a higher rated recruit than what you should have been. And I think that's the way the cookie crumbles. I don't think you can. I don't think it's all around. I don't think you give one answer to that. Your thoughts on that?
No, and Candace, and I didn't mean to disrespect. It's just folks know that on the last live, I went after the interior defensive line for their lack of pass rush, for the lack of run stuffing, and it starts with him. And I want her to be right. Like, I want him to play well because he came back for another year, and he's probably going to start. So, no, that's exactly how I feel about it. Go back and watch the Baylor game, and you see I don't know what it is. Whether it's I know it's not lack of hustle, because I know he runs, he hustles, but just it's not there. Like, the teams rush for 5.9 yards per carry, and that's the 1 and the 3. That's the defensive tackle and the nose tackle. That is their area. They gotta eat up blocks and allow the linebackers to make plays. And I just hope she's right. The lack of development, I do agree with you. They've had 3 different, defensive coordinators since he's been on campus. Chris Ash, Pete Witkowski, and whoever the hell was before him. Like, it's like we've done this over and over and over again. So, yeah, it's a second year in the system, and I hope she's right that he does improve and he does surprise us and he does get drafted.
Absolutely. I'm with you. I hope you're right, Miss Queenie B. I hope you are right on that one. Roschon, I think, might be considered a dark horse considering to the public eye. It's all Bijan. I think Roschon is going to have a long tenured pro life. I really do. I think he's going to get teams are going to love Roschon. They are. And if you're trying to get someone on your roster, an NFL roster, a Roschon is somebody I'd go after. You know what I'm saying? Just based on his tenacity, who he is. But I think he's grown over the last couple of years from, we don't even, it's funny because last year I think we stopped saying previous quarterback because he was no longer a previous quarterback anymore. I think he is legit number 2 running back. Texas has maybe the best running back in the room. They may have the best 2 running back in the room in Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson because
no doubt
of what Roschon can do when Bijan takes a breather.
Yeah,
I think he ran for almost 200 yards, right, against Kansas State last year, like 183 yards.
And I used to think he was just a guy that broke tackles and got the tough yards, but no, he's shown you the ability to break games open, break long gainers, just like he did in the spring game. There was another game I was watching the other day where he broke one. It may have been the Baylor game, either Baylor or Oklahoma State. He broke another big run, but yeah, no, he has big playmaking ability. So absolutely, he's draftable, and I think he would make a great pro, no doubt. And again, it's that commitment, right? Folks are talking about Rojo has practice sessions, voluntary practice sessions on Saturday that everybody attends. He's a leader, So when you interview him in the combine, there's going to be some great things that you not only like about his ability on the football field because he catches the ball in the backfield. Again, we talked about he can, make tough yards. He can bust the long one, but he's a great character guy. A guy that probably would do great on special teams. So yeah, he'd definitely do an NFL team great, in my opinion.
Talk about the Wildcat that Roschon Johnson ran last year. If it's not broke, don't get away from it. And I think that's who Steve Sarkisian is. He's going to keep running the same thing over and over and over again until the defense learns how to stop it. And I think that was one of those things that he kept in the playbook when he realized that teams were having a really hard time bringing down Roschon Johnson, one-on-one too, because he's as big as he is. What we got? Kind of going through these, and it's getting kind of quiet. We have 110 people in here, not a lot of comments.
Gamer Type said he likes the in-game chats. Like I said, we'll bring him back. Definitely bring him back this year. It got a little wild, when Texas was blowing basically the Arkansas game was tough to do an in-game chat on because that game was never a game and we were kind of getting dominated. But other than that, folks are good to each other and respectful and just talking ball for the most part. So yeah, we'll definitely bring him back. Especially for those big games like Alabama and OU, they'll definitely be up and you guys can talk during the game. But no, Rojo's very versatile running back.
Yep. All righty. So we got 106 people in here. If you would not mind hitting that like button or that subscribed button before you get out of here, we greatly appreciate it. Like I said, Jeremy said, we're trying to grow as a channel. We got some things that are coming out probably within the next, week or so. So be on the lookout for that. Twitter's our baby. We're always on Twitter. You have questions, please ask us and, or reach out to us in the DMs. We try to answer it, when we can. So if you have any questions for us, just hit us in the DMs on Twitter. But we appreciate y'all listening as always. What do we say? 100 people watching, get 100 likes. I think we're like 16 people from 100 likes. So if you have not hit that like button, please hit that like button. We would definitely appreciate it. But we appreciate y'all listening as always. Hopefully you enjoyed Mike Roach tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed Texas Football Talk. We do appreciate, like I said, we had some really good content creators in here tonight. Nino Sports, Texas Homer. The list goes on and on. So again, please get over to their channels and watch them as well. They put out really great content. Any final thoughts before we get off here, Jeremy?
No, man. Like I say, appreciate Mike Roach. Go get his book, pre-order it now, Amazon. And no, I appreciate you guys coming in. Got a lot of stuff we're working on. Just keep your eye out. Turn that notification bell on so you know that we're coming on. Clint's messing with the stuff as I'm talking. But no, I'm good, brother. Great show.
Yeah, I have to pull that stuff up because if not, it'll be a tongue twister. So hey, you can follow us on Texas Football or on Facebook at Texas Football Talk, on Instagram at Texas Football Talk, and on Twitter at TS Football Talk. We appreciate y'all listening as always, and y'all have a wonderful night. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.